Oh no, some scary clown squirted water all over my comics.
Never fear, son! In Colorado, there is one place to go for all your comic needs. Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics.
Oh boy, thanks Coins, Cards, Comics, man. Oh no, there's a lady hanging off that building. Can you save her?
I can't save her, but you can also save 20% by getting a hold slot at Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics.
Oh no, she's falling.
Did you know prices are also falling on back issues at Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics?
Thanks for saving me, Coins, Cards, Comics guy. Now I can buy my son the card games he wants and the sports memorabilia my husband wants.
That's correct, ma'am. Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics knocks it out of the park. So visit 6700 Wadsworth Boulevard in Arvada, Colorado. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And tell them the Real Nerd sent you.
Does this sound familiar? You're interested in purchasing that new action figure but aren't sure if it's worth it? Well, come check out PlasticExplosion.com, where you can go to find all the latest and greatest action figure previews and reviews. Every week they'll be bringing you reviews and picks from your favorite collections, such as DC Universe, Masters of the Universe Classics, Marvel Universe, Star Wars, Transformers, and many more. Come check us out at PlasticExplosion.com. That's PlasticExplosion.com.
For barbecue that can't be beat, try Birdman Barbecue Sauce. Available and original and spicy. These robust, full-flavor sauces have the awesome power to kick your taste buds in their face. And for that smoking taste on everything you eat, try new Birdman Smoke and Rub. Caution! Meat left unrubbed may suffer from flavor performance anxiety. You can pick up Birdman Barbecue at local area Ace Hardware stores, Ruff's Barbecue in Golden, and the Danny Cash Hot Shop off Broadway. You can also like us on Facebook at Birdman BBQ.
Welcome to the podcast. I am Ryan. To my left is
Brad.
To my right is
James.
We are the Real Nerds, and we have a special guest. In front of me is
Chris.
Chris, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from many places. Owner and administrator of a website called tokunation.com, but we'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
We'll talk about that now because we want people to know you. Introduce yourself. What do you do on your website?
Oh, sure. I'm part of a network. It's called the 2005 Network. Tokunation is a website based primarily on tokusatsu, which is basically the Japanese term for what in America would be like Power Rangers, stuff like that. Japan's a whole different media. That's a lot more serious. I don't use the term dark because that's so cliche, but it's actually quite big over in Japan and starting to grow over here.
So what exactly is it?
It's basically things like Godzilla.
Nice.
For example, is one of the big ones. Super Sentai Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider's been around in Japan for 40 years. Hasn't really made it big here yet. And then Power Rangers is the Americanized, bastardized version of the Super Sentai brand.
Don't shit on my Power Rangers, man. That was my jam when I was like 6
you know what?
years old.
They're 20 years old in 2013.
Oh,
you want to hear something crazy? I was reading stuff about Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man. His last published work was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
No way.
Big published work. I mean, he still does covers every once in a while. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I said, wow, poor Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
Maybe if he wasn't such a dick.
Yeah. Well, you know, if The Missing Man, which was the second story in the Pacific Presents issues that featured the Rocketeer, if that had been any good at all, then maybe he wouldn't have had to lower himself to Power Rangers comics.
Yeah, he takes some getting used to. Anyways, Chris, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're excited to have it. We saw The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey.
Whoa. Nobody stutters in the movie. Who are you making fun of?
Nobody. I just
stumbled.
I was making fun of myself.
Okay, cool.
We saw Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey in high frame rate.
We did.
How do we feel about it? You're going to have to stay tuned and find out. Just like every show, we start our show with fan mail.
Fan mail!
We actually have a voicemail. I'm going to play the voicemail first because it sets up her email that she sent, and she doesn't like hearing her own voice. But Cora, guess what? here's your own voice on the Real Nerds podcast.
Hey guys, it's Cora. Normally I would email you because I don't like listening to my own voice, but that's okay. I sent you an email in regards to the Twilight podcast, and I just wanted to say in no way am I defending everything that you said was offensive, because the way they portray it in the movie, it's offensive. I can let it go because of everything that's in the email, which I'm sure you'll get to because you usually do voicemails first and then you do email. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that before you got into the email, which will probably get ridiculed, kind of, maybe. Anyway, all right. Have a great show. I'm excited to listen to it. Bye.
Cora, thanks for voicemailing us on Google Voice. Remember, you can call us 720-6nerds5. Leave us a message. It's fun because then you can hear yourself. Mark Wahlberg hasn't called us in a while. I'm challenging you, Mark Wahlberg. I want you to say something to me.
I think you scared him off.
If you didn't listen, though, last week, what she's talking about is the fact that we sort of sent out a challenge to two of our listeners who write in quite a bit and happen to, in the same week, tell us, like, oh, go easy on Twilight. It's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
And they both emailed us in to explain it. But, as Cora says, maybe not exactly defend it, because that shit is totally offensive.
Exactly. So it's funny. I sent out the challenge, and Cora, loyal listener, sent us a response. It said, "Dear Real Nerds, I love getting homework assignments. It feels like I'm back at school." Hey, all right. You know what? I'll think of something else for you to send in, Cora.
Yeah, start writing us some blogs. Get some stuff going on the website.
Great. Yeah,
that'd be great.
But you asked for it. I'm sorry, it isn't chronological or short for that matter. So basically, I guess I'll refresh everybody. I asked everybody to defend Twilight.
Yeah.
So this is her defense of it. So back when they were first doing casting and news about the Twilight movie, I was intrigued. I try to be one of those people who reads the book before seeing the movie. This doesn't always work, but I try. I had heard all the hoopla and was curious, so I picked up the first book. You know what's interesting is I didn't even know what the fuck Twilight was until the first movie started getting popular. Did you know what it was before?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know what it was before, Chris?
Only because I had to work at a bookstore.
Oh, so you probably did. Brad, did you know what Twilight was before?
I saw the books on the shelf, but I didn't understand the phenomenon.
I guess I'm just so out of the loop. I
was an English major, and strangely enough, English majors don't actually shy away from that shit. Mm-hmm. And the large majority of them are women, which meant that I knew a lot of people who were reading those books, and it...
Interesting. I just guess I missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cora continues, "Now I had the book stashed away for a few months until I had my heart broken. As much as that means at 20 years old. Regardless, this was a catalyst for reading something mushy and full of love." I love that she put love in quotation marks.
Yeah, she keeps doing that, and I'm very happy about that.
It all kind of went downhill from there. I read all 4 books as consecutively as I could 4 times in a row. It was an obsession, to say the least. Either after that or during that, I don't remember exactly, I watched the first movie and got caught up in the hype. Even after the fact, admitting the movie wasn't great. But it captured the emotion and feeling that carried over for me reading the first book during a vulnerable mental state. So I accepted that it was a free showing because... So I accepted that it was terrible and still saw it 5 times. So Brad, how many times did you see The Dark Knight Rises?
9.
Okay, so that makes sense to me. we got a free showing because the film reel during the midnight premiere was all screwed up at the end. I pitched a fit, subsequently getting cheers from the theater when I came back into the theater, and announced that they were going to rewind it and try again. It's a community thing, even though I don't ever really want to admit that I buy into that community. I guess that happened to us during Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And I only threw a fit because I didn't get the action figure. But I ended up getting the action figure.
I've done that quite a few times. The second time I saw Avatar, it started and the colors were all backwards, and I was the one who ran outside. Nobody cheered then, though. They were all just like, oh, all right, I guess now we have to watch this piece of shit.
During the reading of the books, I picked up on a common thread, being an English major, James, that I was. Meyer drew from an underlying ideas of classic literature to loosely model each book. I took this and ran with it, as any vindictive college student should. My professor hated these stories more than you guys do. I wrote my English senior seminar on the series and how it can help introduce young girls to classic strong literary characters. I love that she says introduces them to strong literary characters and not saying that Bella is one of them.
No.
Meyer uses Pride and Prejudice as a tone for Twilight, with Bella even reading excerpts at some point and comparing Edward to Mr. Darcy, a stretch in my opinion.
Yes.
Then in New Moon, it was Romeo and Juliet. The comparison's not too subtle, with the suicide threats by both Edward and Bella.
That is actually the best comparison.
There is also a reference to Scheherazade at one point.
What?
Scheherazade? I don't agree.
Scheherazade?
Scheherazade.
Oh, yeah,
there
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Eclipse is my favorite comparison. She picks up Wuthering Heights as her classic novel. This is the only actually applicable since all the characters involved are crazy and have unhealthy relationships. In Eclipse, Edward actually reads an excerpt from the novel at one point when he notices Bella has been reading it. Lastly is Breaking Dawn. This one doesn't have much focus at the beginning, but the key text, which I was happy they actually used in the movie, is The Merchant of Venice, which they directly reference, but also implies the surprise ending where someone comes in at the last minute to save the day.
It's called a Deus Ex Machina. It's actually a horrible thing that you shouldn't do in stories. We'll talk about that later.
So to sum it up, I got sucked into the series out of emotional stuff and was able to stick with it because I believe that on a book level there is some underlying value. If young girls want to read this, at least use it as a way to motivate them to read some classic literature and help them draw their own conclusions about how Bella makes her choices. Plus, I love the way love manifests. I love love.
Now,
I will say this before we finish this. She does at least have some valid arguments for herself.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And you know what, Cora, I really appreciate it because that was well thought out.
And I think putting it in that very personal context of saying like, well, it came along at a time when that was the kind of thing that I needed to read. I can understand that, and I think I understand, at least why some people would be attracted to it.
Sure.
I still don't understand why it is as popular as it is, and I still think that when you break down that story and really look at all of its parts and the messages that it's portraying, it's appalling. And she is not a strong character that should be admired by young women, but
Cora admits that, and she says it's a good way to introduce you to other literature, which you should read the other books that we talked about.
I was going to say, if the defense is that Twilight should be supported because it references all these great past literary works, why aren't those past literary works as popular as Twilight right now?
Yeah, well, and that just comes from the fact that every story is the same. Every story has been told, and that every generation needs to have it told in a new way. And for them, yes, those books are still good and should be popular and read, but every now and then, a generation needs a book that sort of makes that fresh for them. But Twilight should not be that one.
Otherwise, I noted that Brad was confused at why I didn't see Moonrise Kingdom in the theater. To answer your question, yes, I did have a problem with watching kids fall in love. Michael and I had been fighting at the time and thought that the love story would be too much for my emotionally fragile state. It was fabulous, by the way.
So
also, you can probably guess
dick,
I am a
Brad.
woman. I can be an emotional disaster. She said it, not me. So I did cry myself to sleep for at least a week when you ripped apart Frankenweenie.
Good job, guys.
And then
we're the assholes there.
And then she says, "Go Team Edward." I'm so a Team Jacob guy. I'm sorry, guys. Team Jacob all the way.
Team Jacob.
You know how he wants to have sex with a 4-week-old baby?
Remember
right?
when he has like telecommunication wolf conversations with the rest of the
I am
town
Jacob.
meeting? He is terribly entertaining.
Chris, what's your position on Twilight?
If we're gonna go based on Cora's email and the defense given, I can accept the past literary references, but I can tell you for a fact that anybody I've ever known that's been really obsessed or a huge fan of Twilight series isn't reading Pride and Prejudice or
I read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
I read that too, but unfortunately, I see them more watching shows like True Blood, Vampire Diaries, Being Human.
Hey, Cora likes Vampire Diaries.
See how it all kind of starts to fit in now? I mean,
absolutely.
I didn't see the last 2 Twilight movies, and I didn't read any of the books because I just don't find what in my opinion equates to a teenage romance novel.
Oh yeah, we would never saw it if we didn't have a podcast. I mean,
oh no, I would have seen that shit. Shit is crazy, man.
There's cougar wrestling.
Needed to watch that.
You need to bring up, James, your reference that we came up with earlier tonight.
Which one?
But the head's popping off?
Oh, yeah. We did figure out, because last week we compared the heads popping off to Barbie dolls.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more like Legos. I don't know if you ever pop the head off a Lego, but if you pinch it right at the neck, it flies across the room. That is a far more apt metaphor for the way that those heads pop off. Man,
Absolutely.
I was
It's
actually
ridiculous.
concerned your first poll was like playing with Barbies, so I'm very curious about your childhood.
Dan from Ohio also stepped up to the plate. I asked both of them, greetings, and he obviously listens to the show because he knows us. I briefly considered defending Twilight last year when you posed the challenge, but as you seem particularly set in your opinions, I didn't think it would be that productive. However, this time I will endeavor to offer an alternative perspective. First, I'll admit being a fan of the vampire genre and have seen nearly every vampire series from Blood Rain to Underworld.
Ooh.
And horrible takes on a new meaning once you've seen From Dusk Till Dawn, Texas Blood Money,
Yep.
or Dracula 3 Legacy. In my experience, Twilight is a rather high-end series within the genre. It's competently made, uses music particularly well, and has unique vision. The vampire lore of the Twilight series is quite fascinating, as is the werewolf lore for that matter. I know it gets criticism for having sparkly vampires, but on the whole, the series presents an interesting new take on vampirism that I found compelling. Dan, I respect you, but the music is horrible in Twilight.
I don't. What?
But I mean, I just might hate the whole series, so I might be not very objective here.
I can't see. I have a hard time looking at this as like, well, when we compare this to really garbagey vampire movies, because I can hardly even see them as vampire movies. You know, like the closest it ever gets is actually in the new one. Lee Pace's character, we actually see him hunt and kill a person, and then he actually drinks their blood, and that's the closest it's ever felt to me as like a vampire series.
Yeah.
You remember that? Because they were hunting that guy in the alley
in New Orleans.
Yeah,
in quotation marks.
It's not like True Blood at all, and it's not. It doesn't feel like vampires at all. I have a hard time even comparing it to that stuff.
As for Bella and her appeal as a protagonist, her enduring qualities of devotion and self-sacrifice are what make her stand out. Some dismiss or confuse this quality as low self-esteem. However, it's Bella's love of others, Charlie, her father,
bullshit,
Edward, Jacob, etc., that gives her strength to rise in the challenges before her and prevail. In nearly every conflict, Bella makes a desperate gambit to save lives of her loved one, often through personal sacrifice. In Breaking Dawn Part 2, you took her attempts to protect her father from the Volturi as acts of cruelty, but they came from a place of love and at the expense of her own relationship with him, which she held dearly.
Where? When does she hold it dearly? When does she? No. Yeah, Edward breaks up with her in whatever the shitty one in the middle is, and she just spends all of her time. Yeah, it's New Moon. She spends all of her time just weeping in bed, and there is never that scene where you remember in Lord of the Rings when Arwen is really sad because Aragorn is leaving, and she's pissed at her dad because she's like, "Hey, you never told me that there was going to be a kid. Like you've lied to me." And Elrond says, "Like, do I not also have your love?" And she just breaks down and she's like, "Of course you do." And you actually see the conflict there. That is what that story should be, but it's never that. She doesn't even call her dad like dad most of the time. Most of the time she wishes she was with her mom, it seems like, and her mom comes into town and she's so cool, but she's got to live with her silly dad with his mustache and his axe.
And his
Come
Billy
on.
Burkness.
Yeah. Out chopping wood.
Now, you're not exactly wrong in your criticism of Breaking Dawn Part 2, but you do protest too much. I deplore Stephanie Meyer's writing and have been impressed by the screenwriter's ability to shift through the minutia and deliver a cinematic script. That said, the scripts have always been mediocre. So yes, the Breaking Dawn Part 2 script isn't particularly strong, but it's not bad. The storytelling is efficient, but not passionate. The voiceover narration gives the series a sense of continuity and the proper framework, as this is her story. I also agree that the special effects aren't great either, but they're above par and not nearly as abysmal as of Underworld Awakening or Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I don't know. I think I really do agree that CG Scott Speedman was better than CG Babyface. I really do think that.
What's the worst CGI, Scott Speedman or Babyface?
Yeah.
For the most part, the special effects in Breaking Dawn Part 2 don't distract from the film. Though I'll grant you that there's some overuse of CGI of Renesmee. But I'd argue
it sounds
that
like a name that it's like a regular name. She's just spelled backwards.
it'd be Emissioner.
That's actually somehow better.
But I'd argue that the fight sequence and kinetic are well choreographed, due in part to effective use of CGI. I was engrossed in the scenes as they happened and walked away sufficiently entertained. I will say that it was cool when they were ripping heads off.
Yeah, and the fight scene at the end is not.
And the
not
wolves
the worst.
have gotten progressively better throughout the series. They're still not that good though at points.
No, but they're also trying to make that movie as cheap as they can so that they can, have a really wide profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
But.
And lastly, I was satisfied with the conclusion of the Bella Edwards storyline. Few series have such a well-plotted and developed relationship.
Ooh.
And I appreciated the effort that the series made to make it a journey. Immortal love is a rich aspect of vampire genre and is rarely explored in film. For instance, the Underworld series gives virtually no thought or development to the Celine-Michael relationship. That's true.
Yeah, he's right.
So the fact Twilight broke away from convention and told an expansive tale of immortal romance impressed me, especially given that I'm a former fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Former?
Regards, Dan.
Whoa, I want to hear the story about how you're not still a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What happened?
Yeah,
Oh,
Dan, you have another homework assignment.
Joss Whedon must have shit in his lunch.
Why you're a former fan. You know what? I know we've picked apart these emails, but Dan, Cora, thanks for being good sports because,
absolutely.
I mean, they're both well thought out. And obviously, Dan, you're a vampire fan.
Oh, yeah.
So I will take what you say to heart.
He's right. I mean, there are worse vampire movies, and I do think he's right about her books. From what I have read of them, the little bits, not a lot. I haven't read them, but they are more poorly written than the screenplays are, and the screenplays are still pretty messy. But
could you imagine getting the job of having to screenwrite those books?
Yeah, I can imagine turning down that job.
I wouldn't. They'd pay me money.
Well, that's true.
But I really appreciate because you both gave us something to think about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a different perspective. It's just something I never got and I never will. And I appreciate it. Hopefully you'll still listen after this week.
Yeah, because those movies are still pretty bad.
Yeah. We also got on our official website, Paul Salmon sent, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Aw.
He sent us something. So thanks, Paul Salmon. In case you guys are wondering, we also got, Paul Salmon liked us on Facebook, film historian. That gets me giddy. Also, Jeffrey Reddick liked us on Facebook, screenwriter. Jeffrey Reddick liked us on Facebook. So
cool.
That's too cool. Thank you guys so much. And I usually don't, say, oh, we got someone to like us. But when it's actual famous people, it's kind of cool.
Oh yeah. Well, and that interview with Paul Salmon is great. If you haven't,
listened to it, please give it a chance.
I know it's long, but man, it is so entertaining. That guy's awesome.
And this week, stay tuned for our interview with Dylan, who is the director of my favorite short from Telluride called Chili.
Oh,
that'll be sometime this week if Brad's not too busy.
That's a good one.
But anyways, thanks Brad for putting up a lot of content this week. Everybody give Brad a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Here.
I knocked it out.
Yeah, woo. You could add some cool sound effects if you can find some.
Do you want me to jerk you off too?
Too much.
All right.
And another thing for my ego is I always have my family doesn't understand what I do. For the longest time, my own wife doesn't listen to my podcast. But something amazing happened. I was at work one day, and my brother, Steve, my older brother, he texted me and says, "Hey, Ryan, I'm listening to your podcast. It's really funny." And I was kind of taken aback by it because, Steve will support anything I do, but it's just not something I thought he would do.
Yeah.
And so he even emailed us this week. My brother, Steve, said, "What's up, nerds? Love the show. Thanks for giving me something to pay attention to at work other than work." So you're welcome, my brother Steve. We hope you find our podcast really entertaining. And since you just found it, there's so many episodes to listen to. And he was so inspired by our Film Splosion 1999 episode that he wants to do a themed episode with us. or he's going to see a movie with us and sit in on the podcast one day.
Cool.
And he says, I might sound stupid, but I'll sit in on it.
Yeah, we might sound stupid too.
Yeah, wait till you see what we watch this week, Steve, and then maybe you don't sound as stupid as we do.
Oh.
So thank you, everybody who wrote in this week. Thanks for everybody who liked us. Thanks for everybody who reads our stuff online. You can email us directly, realnerds@gmail.com. You can go to our website, Real Nerds Podcast, leave us a comment there. You can tweet us at @real_nerds. Easy to get a hold of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now it's time. The moment everybody was waiting for, except for Brad.
I'm so excited.
Stuff we've been watching.
So, yeah, this is the stuff we've been watching.
So this week, I picked up a few movies that I was meaning to see from this year. I did rewatch the Lord of the Rings trilogy just to get prepared for this, and they're still really good.
Doesn't really matter. They'll come after this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
The extended ones?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's like 8 hours.
Yeah.
Don't you work 60 hours at your job?
I do.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you go home and your head hurts, and you can put in a 3-hour-long movie and it helps.
Well, and he didn't say he didn't watch them at work.
Yeah, I wish that'd be awesome. But yeah, they're still good. I don't need to go into that.
Nope.
One of the movies that James really liked this year that was available for rent at Blockbuster, by the way, James. I rented at Blockbuster.
Whoa, you rented a movie at the Blockbuster?
Yeah.
Like a store?
Yeah, I got a membership there like 15 years ago, and it still works, by the way.
Is it still like laminated in plastic? And
I don't have the card.
Oh, whoa.
I just give them my driver's license, and they...
Checky.
And they let me rent.
Yeah. Wow. They really don't care if you steal their movies anymore then, man.
No, I asked them, I said, when I rented a couple months ago, I said, what's the last thing I rented there? They couldn't even tell me.
Oh, wow.
They said that's how long ago it was I rented. So the first movie I watched this week is Beasts of a Southern Wild.
Oh, man.
Which is a story that kind of takes place in the future, I guess.
Yeah.
Where there's a place I'm guessing it was New Orleans at one point, or just outside of New Orleans, called the Bathtub, which is now surrounded by water. And it's basically just a bunch of poor people who live in the bathtub, and the people that live on... What do they call the people who live on the dry area?
I don't remember.
Anyways, they're blocked off by a levee, so it's an island surrounded by the water, and there's an impending storm, and ice caps are melting. It's basically a fable, a modern fable. And yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but basically it's a story of this little girl who, with her father, live in the bathtub, and it's a story of just her, and her father is her protector, and...
That's all you got out of it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, straight-up plot to follow, so it's hard to even summarize without spoiling the ending. Did you like it?
Yeah, it is all right.
Yeah.
There were some parts that I thought were really good. The little girl was really good in it.
Absolutely.
It's hard for me to describe this movie. I mean, it's just this little girl's journey. When she finds out certain things, I can't spoil the movie because you have to watch it.
I think so much of
you get an idea of what's happening,
right?
But there's some parts that made me laugh when she's saying "I'm the man," and she's arm wrestling everybody, and
I think so much of it is sort of world building and getting you into what's going on. That then the ending, which I think is really powerful and a really interesting story, we don't want to tell anybody what happens there. And so I think it's worth it for that, but it's hard to talk about without.
Yeah, I will say the CGI in that $1 million movie was really convincing.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's not all CG, which is neat. I saw a thing about how they made that.
Cool.
And it's pretty cool.
So yeah, if you want to see kind of a different kind of movie, and it's not, I might watch it one more time.
Yeah.
Just to get how I feel about it. It probably won't be in my top 10, but it'll definitely be in the top 30.
It's in my list right now, but I got to rent it again. Or actually, I ordered it, but I got to see it again before the list is out because it is a weird one.
It is, and I read an interesting article about it that where it got its notoriety is President Obama told Oprah that it was good.
Oh, really?
And then Oprah talked about it on her show, and then it kind of blew up.
Oh,
after
wow.
that.
Man,
So that's kind of interesting.
Oprah's still running the world.
Yep, always will. So you should check it out. I can't really describe
Yeah.
it to you. I don't want to ruin the movie, but it is fun.
It's certainly, from this year, it's one of the little gems that I think people ought
it's
to
one of
check
the one
out
that flew
for
under
sure.
the radar. That's you should see.
Yeah.
Also, when we were at Telluride Horror Show, I saw a trailer for a movie called Wrong Turn 5, and I picked up Wrong Turn 5 as well.
You did not. I've
Yeah.
been trying to see that for weeks.
Oh, dude, it's horrible.
Oh.
The first Wrong Turn is actually not bad.
Yeah.
Because one, it's Stan Winston does all the makeup effects, and so it's kind of cool. This one, the makeup effects are so cheap. Man, I can't even describe how bad this movie is. I don't have to tell you that it's about these people that are attacked by hillbillies, and there's this one part where there's this one hillbilly. The makeup's horrible on this hillbilly, but he's gonna shoot these kids because the guy who played Pinhead in Hellraiser is like the leader of their. I guess that's supposed to be like give it some horror cred.
Oh, yeah.
And so he makes these kids crash, and they're about to be attacked by the cannibal hillbillies, but the cops show up. So, of course, everybody leaves except for one police officer, and there's 3 hillbillies, and they come running down the hill, and this one hillbilly does this. And does the cop know he doesn't have a gun this whole time? Like, they're running at him, he pulls out the gun, and he says, "Stop! Stop!" And then they shoot. One of them shoots an arrow, and it hits him in the leg. He's like, "Oh, my God!" And he falls down.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you still have a fucking gun. And they kill him. And then the movie's so poor, and it had to have been shot somewhere in Europe because all the actors try to have American accents, but it was horrible American accents. It's like that Family Guy, those 2 European guys where they say, "Oh, it's like they've been in America long enough where you don't notice their accent except on specific words." And it was exactly like that. And they always were running around this one little square in this town that was basically some backlot, probably in, I don't know, Prague. And it was just horrible. The only cool part was they chased this one girl down, they killed her, and they ripped open her stomach so her intestines were falling out, and they fed them to her. I thought that was pretty cool. I will not recommend Wrong Turn 5, though, for anybody to pick up. I didn't know there was a 4. I know there's a 3 because I've seen that one too, but I don't know the 4th one. I don't know where it came from.
You know what turn they took to get to 5?
Yeah.
I think they just skipped it.
And then the last thing I saw this week is something James saw too.
Oh, man.
And it's a movie we've been trying to see since we saw the cover art for it. And this movie is Sand Sharks. And it's as stupid as it sounds.
If you've listened to the show before, you know that when we get to DVD releases, I always scroll down to the bottom because quite often there are weird shark movies at the bottom. And when I saw Sand Sharks, I was like, this one's special.
Did you see
out of all of the Jersey Shore shark attacks and all the other ones, Sand Sharks?
I was scrolling through upcoming releases, and Snow Sharks is coming out. Just so you know.
And here's the thing: when it was done, because it's on Netflix, the thing that it recommended I watch next was Troll 2. That is what this movie is. I'm not kidding.
But the movie is literally about sharks that swim through sand
instead of water.
And
Well, actually,
eat
also
people.
water.
But when you were first watching it, when the first shark attacked, did it look like a catfish to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's the weirdest because it is like a super shark. They talk about it's a remnant from the dinosaur age, and much like in Piranha 3D, they're the ones that are actually attacking them end up just being babies. But what's important to note here is that the scientist who figures out that they're babies, Brooke Hogan.
Yes.
The big star of this movie is Brooke Hogan.
Yeah, and
scientific genius Brooke
yeah,
Hogan.
they have her spitting out scientific jargon.
She gets to say lines like, "Well, I haven't finished doing all of my tests, like DNA."
Yeah,
she's
after
gotta
she
do a
holds
bit,
up a shark tooth.
Yeah.
She holds up a shark tooth, and she says, "This might be a baby shark, but it's too big. I still need to run some more tests."
Like carbon dating and DNA.
Carbon
That's
dating.
what she says.
Carbon dating a
She has
fresh
to-
tooth.
She has to carbon date the fresh tooth.
A fresh tooth that they pulled out of a victim.
Oh, man. And honestly, her lines seem like they were made up on the spot, where it's like, okay, we need to film a couple scenes where you're in here talking about the sharks. Just say some shit.
Exactly.
Because clearly nothing's scripted. Because at one point they're running away from the sharks and they get up on this rock. She and the sheriff,
like Tremors.
She and the sheriff, who is clearly a Chief Brody, because there are so many Jaws
Dude,
ripoffs.
isn't it like the worst Jaws ripoff ever?
They literally have a Quint character.
Yeah,
that's how bad it is.
And he says, "I'll get you the head, the fin, the tail." Because I can't say the exact
right. Hook, line, and sinker. He keeps saying.
But his accent changes throughout the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying to tell my wife that one of the things that made me so bad why they didn't have a script. So they're at this huge rave on the beach to save the town, and there's like 20 people there.
Right. But they keep saying there's thousands of kids out there, and then they do wide shots. It's 20.
And they have Sandman Festival, and our real nerds. It's like our real nerd setup.
Oh,
like
it's worse.
It's like the same size, though, is what I'm saying. It's like a black curtain
and a 6-foot table
with a DJ on it,
and a tiny little sign in the middle of the curtain that doesn't fill.
That doesn't even like ours is neatly put up. It's black string. This had white string. It was horrible. Anyways, so I don't know if you noticed this. So these kids were selling ecstasy at this big old party or whatever, and then these girls wanted it, and they said, well, you got to show us your tits or whatever it was. So the girl she says, I'm not going to do that. And they say, no, show it to Mr. Shark.
It's the longest negotiation to get boobs in a movie I've ever seen.
And then they don't show them, so what the hell. So anyways, there's like a sand make-believe shark, like they built it like a sand castle. And then so she goes down to show her boobs, and then a sand shark comes up and eats her, and blood flies all over these kids. And
it's brown blood.
Yeah.
It's the worst blood.
It's horrible. But then, did you notice later when the dude who organized the event went to get the kids off the pier, those same two kids who were goofing off like they didn't know that the girl was eaten by a sand shark right in front of them.
Yes.
Were like, didn't have any blood on them. He's like, get off, there's big giant sharks. They're like, there's no big giant sharks. Then they get eaten by a shark.
That's actually the funniest scene in the movie. Like because the way that the douchey guy plays that scene is actually a little bit genuinely funny.
Yeah.
I mean, after an hour and 15 minutes of this shit.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's how inconsistent it is.
Oh, yeah.
These kids literally had blood thrown on their face because a girl was eaten by a shark.
A sand
shark. And then they were laughing because they didn't believe that there were sand sharks on this beach. And then they get eaten by a sand shark.
Yeah.
That's how poorly written this is.
Well, and the thing I was talking about before, like, they escape up onto this rock. And then 2 scenes later, those 2 characters show back up in this house, and everybody's like, wait a second, I thought that you were stuck on a rock. And they go, yeah, we got away.
They don't show how. They don't explain how.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
But
my favorite scene, though, is there are these 2 guys who, after they announce that they're going to give away money to try and kill the shark exactly like Jaws, because they need to keep the beaches open for the party or whatever, because 20 kids are going to spend a lot of money in this town. And these 2 guys go out onto the lake, and they're searching for the shark. And they got this little, like, rubber dinghy that they're in, and they're rowing. And all of a sudden, the shark comes up, and it hits the boat, and the boat flips over, and they're screaming. And they stand up in the water because it's knee-high water, pick the boat up over their head, and run to shore. And I'm going, why the fuck were they searching for an actual... Because at this point, they don't know they're sand sharks. They were searching for a shark in 1.5 feet of water. It was the best scene. I was like, this is worth it.
My favorite scene was when they were on the rocks, and the sheriff's sister was one of the deputies, and she got bit in half.
Oh, yes.
And so, the party guy has to tell the sheriff that his sister's dead, and it's his big emotional scene. And this dude, this is here. I'll play him for like 2 seconds. 15 people died on that beach. I don't know how he knew how many people died. And one of them was my sister. I'm going to make sure you pay. And then he comes back later and says, wait, we need your help.
Yeah. Well, he actually apologized. He's like, I'm sorry. I was a little emotional. I'm not actually going to kill you. But I am going to put you in jail.
Yeah, I'm not going to kill you. You just got my sister eaten by a shark, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And then they have that big emotional scene where he's going to die at the end.
Yes.
And they're like, no, don't do it.
No, don't sacrifice yourself to the like weird because the last scene takes place. There's this little hut, and then there's like this dirt gravel area outside, but then they keep cutting back and forth between like a beach shot of sharks, which is clearly
CGI
a different
dorsal fins. That's it.
It's clearly a different location than where they're supposed to be having their final onslaught against the sharks. Oh man, it's the worst.
It's the worst.
It is so the worst. Shecky, shut up.
So if you're like, oh man, I really want to watch a shitty movie, watch Men in Black 3. Do not watch Sand Sharks.
Actually, I would. Yeah, no. Throw Sand Sharks down in the background. It's awesome.
When does Space Sharks come out?
Dude,
oh my god!
They have like like the Martian helmets on their head.
quickly, Brad.
They're
Delete
just
that.
floating around.
Delete that part. We gotta.
Dude, pitch that to
register
Sci-Fi.
sandsharks.com. Oh, man.
Anyways, that's what I watched this week.
And honestly, that's all I watched this week too. Brad,
what'd you watch this week?
Should we let our guests say something?
Well, yeah.
What'd you watch this
Sure,
week?
Chris, will you go first?
I believe I fell asleep watching Hostel 3.
Whoa, there's a third one of those?
It's on Netflix. It was one of those, you go through the horror movie sections and you're like just flipping through, and the person I was with was like, oh, let's watch this. It's bad.
Is it only on Netflix? I didn't know that.
I want to say it's one of those direct to DVD
yeah.
releases that just never quite made it to DVD.
Yeah.
So now it's on Netflix. But yeah, it's there's only one scene that I really can remember paying attention to. And it's because they cut this guy's face off with a scalpel.
I don't.
But the effects were so horrible. It looked more like something you'd see on Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Like that level of special effects.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed.
I understood like the Saw movies. I mean, they weren't my thing, but when the Hostel ones came out, I could never figure out. Did you guys see them? I mean, we weren't friends at the time, but
I thought the first two were actually not that bad.
They're weird.
I saw Hostel 2 before I saw Hostel 1, and I was just like, who would make a movie like this?
yeah. Well,
Like,
Eli Roth.
Well, yeah, and then I kind of forgot about it because that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All I remember from the first one was like the first 45 minutes was just like naked teens, and then the last 45 minutes was
Naked murdered teens.
Yeah, just murdering people.
If you guys saw the second one, wasn't it the second one where they had some chick on like meat hooks upside down
Yeah,
and
and
someone
they
like
cut her
bathing in her
open.
blood below? Like that's just messed up.
Yeah, I don't understand the appeal. That's the problem.
That's not the right kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's more like
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder about the people who make them, because you're like, what? Why? Not only do you want to make this shit, but then you think it's going to be entertaining to other people.
From what I can remember from the storyline of Hostel 3, and keep in mind it was
Yeah, you
1
fell
o'clock,
asleep.
and I fell asleep halfway through it, but it's some guy kidnapping people, both guys and girls, and they're getting like their faces cut off in front of people that are watching and like being served drinks.
Yeah.
It's like in some...
So I don't go to foreign countries because I'm afraid of getting my face cut off.
Mm-hmm. And served drinks.
Yes. I'm actually more afraid of getting served drinks than I am afraid of getting my face chopped off. Anything else?
No, that's really all I had time to watch.
That's all right.
Half of Hostel 3.
I have those weeks.
Well, obviously, I had a whole week off, so
you'd
think
that's
I
right.
would see a ton of stuff, but I'm kind of disappointed that I saw the same old stuff I always watch.
Oh, lots
So-
of Batman animated series.
No, I actually watched the Dark Knight trilogy.
Ah.
Again.
How-
I did
how
it
are- how
on
are
another
those movies?
episode, huh?
I said, how are those movies?
The same as when I talked about it the last time I did it, except this time I didn't have to go out to the theater to get the third one.
Yeah.
And then I also watched the Spider-Man trilogy.
Nice.
Ah. How are those movies?
The special effects are horrible in HD. Like they really accentuate the, obviously it's 10-year-old CGI.
Right.
It's from a less developed time, but way more enjoyable. I still, even the third one wasn't like.
Told you, third one's not bad.
He hadn't said it yet, Ryan. You jumped to the gun.
It's definitely the worst of the three, but it's equally as entertaining to me as Amazing Spider-Man.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the.
I don't know if you're
special effects are
insulting
terrible.
Amazing Spider-Man or really upping Spider-Man 3.
It's just story-wise, it's just like that boring. When Venom and I was kind of half at like editing at the time too, so I wasn't paying my full attention to the third one.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I was like, I noticed that Venom meets up with Sandman. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I know I wasn't paying attention, but it's still like so weird.
Oh no! It
Well,
totally is.
Sandman thinks Venom is Spider-Man, and so he hits him out of the sky. And then he's like, "You're not Spider-Man." He says, "I hate Spider-Man," and then they team up.
Yeah, but I mean, Venom had to find him in the middle of New York.
No, Venom
in an
didn't-
alley somewhere.
Venom didn't find him. Sandman hit him out of the air because he thought
Yeah.
he was Spider-Man.
Yeah, but
That's
they
how it
still
happens.
found each other. Like, they didn't like start
No,
the
no.
story.
It's still totally like a plot moment from the 3-frame Spider-Man in the newspaper, where they have to like tell you stuff real fast.
Yeah.
It's still one of those moments where it's like, oh shit, we gotta get these guys together real quick. How about one swats the other one out of the sky? Like
That's how I felt checking in on it. It's just like we were on this one storyline. All of a sudden, we get to the 2 hour and 10 minute mark, and they gotta go. Oh yeah, let's just wrap this up.
I
get
still
these
think
two villains together
what
and.
makes number 3 really good, though. I love the Harry Osborn story in it. I love the two friends fighting.
It gives its emotional core, but
Yeah.
then there's that whole like, why are all these New Yorkers standing around this construction site,
Yeah.
and why are we having the whole Paul Verhoeven telecast going on? To
That's my-
explain, like,
yeah,
That's
No,
the
no.
one thing I did not like about that movie is that you have to have the newscaster tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
we
we
can
saw it.
see what's going on.
And like
we know
they-
what the
they-
stakes are.
They do that in Amazing Spider-Man, but it's different. It's almost more like that we need to sort of understand that he's actually farther away. Like we actually don't know what the stakes are. We don't realize how far away he is from the building, and that's why they do it.
You should watch the special features for Amazing Spider-Man. They talk about that sequence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
How the producer said he walked through New York and he realized that if he was legitimately going to swing from building to building and it was so far away, there's no way he could make it.
Yeah.
And so he came up with that whole idea of the construction
cranes.
guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still think the original trilogy is lots of fun.
Oh yeah.
I
the
think-
first one, the only glaring other than the special effects, like that whole Macy Gray music video that they slipped into
Where
the
they're
movie.
like, "Ladies and gentlemen, Macy Gray."
Yeah,
it's the-
like you can't hide that from me.
I know
Like,
that-
I know what you're trying to do.
It sucks, but at the same time, being a huge Green Goblin and Spider-Man fan,
I was
when
so-
that shot of the Green Goblin starts coming across the city, I'm like, oh my god, here he comes!
Yeah.
That is really cool, but I was really afraid you were going to say being a really big Macy Gray fan.
Oh yeah, I was really disappointed.
try to play
She sold out,
How's it go?
I try to say you better.
and then I realized
Anyway.
this is the first time I watched the Spider-Man 2.1,
Mhm.
and there's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
some pretty useful
Yeah.
scenes that got cut out.
Yeah.
And except for that one where Jonah Jameson's wearing the Spider-Man suit,
Yeah,
he's like
that-
slinging
that's
around at
silly.
his desk. Like I never saw it before.
Yeah.
I'm glad that got cut.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah, but no,
It's silly.
I still think the fight on the subway is one of the best action
Oh yeah.
scenes ever.
Yeah. It's still one of the better superhero movies. Period.
Sorry, going back to 3-2. Like, so Harry's butler. Like when Harry
Yeah.
still can't figure out that
That's
you know
Bill
his
Paxton's
father
dad.
was the villain. Yeah, like, and Peter's like, we got to just save MJ. Like, let this go. And then the butler finally like walks in and just explain. Like,
Yeah.
this has been going on for what 2 years, 3 years, and he
There's
finally
a-
is like. Even in the second one, he says, your father
I love that
obsessed more over his work.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great line.
That's one of my
It's like-
favorite lines in that movie.
A movie ago would have been a good time to tell him about the cleaning the wounds.
Well, he was trying to tell him, "Hey, don't obsess over this," and then it takes him a whole movie to be like, "All right, since you're not gonna let this shit go,
Do you have the Blu-ray of it?
Yeah.
Did you see? There's a great like little featurette about Sam Raimi trying to direct that butler guy on how to deliver. Like originally, it's a way longer scene, but he can't do it, so that's why that scene's in there like that. It's really funny.
Oh wow."
He just couldn't find the character.
Yeah, he couldn't do it, like because he's obviously not like a trained actor, I guess,
Ah.
and he couldn't.
Oh, but they had to use him because he was cast in the
Exactly.
second one.
So he tried to do it and over, and they said, "Okay, why don't you just say this part?" They really condensed it.
Wow.
Just
You think he just rewrite it or something?
yeah, or yeah, maybe who knows?
Um,
Or maybe have Harry find out. You know,
yeah.
without the help of the butler.
Yeah, exactly. Just come to a decision, yeah. And the butler cleans, like,
I don't know, he buttles.
Osborn's wounds. Like, it's not just, like, the city coroner or something,
Well, they didn't want him to find out
Mortician, I
that
guess.
he was the Green Goblin. He got hit in the balls, man.
Oh yes, that part. That was my favorite part.
That he got.
No, it's
nuts.
not. It's not really my favorite part. Yeah.
So yeah, and I also watched Moonrise Kingdom again because that showed up on Blu-ray for me.
Nice.
Did you watch that that following Blu-ray?
That hasn't showed up yet.
Oh, cool.
So. And I think that's it.
I was going to watch the Spider-Man
I feel
trilogy
like I
this
watched
week,
more.
but I decided to watch other stuff.
Oh, I watched the whole 4th season of Taxi.
What? wait.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the thing. We haven't talked about you watching the first 3 seasons of Taxi over the last 3 weeks. So
well, I watched the first 3 seasons of Taxi like in 10 years ago, and then I finally got the 5th season, years later, and then just now I got the 4th season.
Oh.
Because it was always like ridiculously expensive on Amazon, so
gotcha.
Finally got caught up on that.
It's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, it's actually I do remember the first 2 seasons being really corny.
How did you get into Taxi?
I watched it on Nick and Night as a kid.
I
watched Dick Van Dyke Show, Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi, Mork and Mindy, Green Acres.
I'm with you on Mork and Mindy.
Hitchcock Presents. Yeah.
Nick at Night. What a great.
I've only got the 1 season of Mork and Mindy. Still working on the other 2. And I think there's 5, but they still haven't released 2 of them.
You don't really need the Jonathan Winters.
I still want to see the Jonathan Winters one.
No,
he's an elderly baby.
I know what he is. That's the problem.
Yeah. But no, I'm glad Jim Ignatowski is such a I think they put him in there because Andy Kaufman was such a flake about the show. Like he didn't like being Laca Gravis all the time, and so I think in the 4th season they start giving him this. They write into this thing where he has a mental deficiency, like some kind of psychological problem that makes him slip into other characters. So he creates a character called Vic Ferrari, who's like a suave, smooth-talking guy who's like cool with the ladies. So like Andy Kaufman was so bored with being Laca, like they had to write in that he could play all these other weird characters. So that's annoying. Like it's just like they have these plots for these shows and all of a sudden these episodes, and then all of a sudden like Andy Kaufman shows up and he's playing like some weird other character that and then he'll slip in and out of it and go back to being Laca.
Weird.
It's just like his need for attention.
Yeah,
it like disrupts you following along with the rest of the plots and stuff. But
Andy Kaufman, look at me.
Yeah,
isn't he dead?
And there's this great thing where
actually he never actually died. That was a conspiracy.
There's this great B plot where Jim Ignatowski gets hooked on Pac-Man.
Is that a drug?
Huh?
No, it's some kind of
drug. Danny DeVito's character, it's slipping my mind right now, buys a Pac-Man machine to put in the dispatch.
Oh, like the video game?
Yeah, the arcade unit. And Jim,
what did you think it was?
I knew what he was. I knew what he was talking about. I was just wondering how long it was going to take him to be like, "Yeah, no, stop being a pain, James."
Louis, yeah, stop being a pain, James. And Jim basically spends all his paychecks back into the Pac-Man machine, and then his paychecks go back to the cab company. Yeah, and they actually spend about good 10 minutes of the show explaining how Pac-Man works. Like you're this little yellow guy, and these ghosts are going to follow you, and you have to eat it's this long, drawn-out explanation of how Pac-Man works, almost like Capcom had a commercial.
Namco.
Or Namco? Yeah. Sorry.
Nerd cred is just keep going downhill.
That's all I watched.
Awesome. Lots to watch this week, boys. Box office number time.
This is the box office stats.
Nothing exciting. Skyfall won $10 million.
That's kind of exciting.
That is
it took
actually
over
exciting.
Twilight.
Yeah. It's 5th week. Hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah.
Where a movie is number 1 in the 5th week. Highest grossing Bond of all time.
It's good because a movie like that deserves to finally dethrone Twilight because shit is garbage. I mean, it's good at getting girls hooked on literature or something, but those movies are garbage.
So yeah, Skyfall, number 1 movie.
Very cool. What did we see last week? Oh,
Twilight.
Right.
Lincoln was number 2. Twilight was number 3.
Wow. Good.
Even Lincoln beat it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Lincoln has really good word of mouth.
Did you see when we were at the Hobbit tonight? Did you see that there were a bunch of people dressed up
As Lincoln?
No.
Well, there was one guy. No, there was a guy as Lincoln. There were a bunch of people in like Civil War garb.
There was a lady walking around in a Civil War style dress.
I
and
missed that.
No, well, I think the movie had started by the time you got there.
I would never
Man.
go to a theater dressed as Lincoln.
Yeah, that's just asking for it.
I did see the Lincoln. Oh yeah. Oh man.
There was a Union soldier that walked out to refill his 44-ounce Coke in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Who knew?
He's
It
like,
was
this
weird.
is what the future's like? This is amazing.
Carbonated beverages and pictures that move. It's
Sweet
inconceivable.
sarsaparilla.
What else is say back then? Darn
Ah,
tootin'.
dear Hannah.
My morning is. Anyways, it's DVD and Blu-ray release time.
DVD releases and Blu-rays.
I can't see the stuff, James. So why don't you tell us what's coming out?
There's a bunch of shit this week. So Brad's favorite movie of the year, Pitch Perfect, comes out.
Nice. Pitch slapped.
It's a lot of like middle of the road stuff. Total Recall comes out, the remake.
I heard the director's cut's way different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
I'm not gonna have to, but I might. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days, which I guess is a big deal. Kids like those books. Trouble with the Curve, which was that Clint Eastwood movie where Amy Adams is mad at him.
Clint Eastwood's reverse Moneyball.
It totally is. Oh my god!
I heard.
The maybe the biggest release is Resident Evil Retribution.
Yeah,
comes out this week, so Ryan can finally complete his collection
Until next year when they release the next one.
Yeah, which we will see. There's also Premium Rush comes out this week.
Nice. The cover art for that's horrible.
It's yeah. It's not the only thing that's not very good about that movie. Liberal Arts, which is that movie that the guy from Ted, or the
Josh
guy who plays
Radnor.
Ted, Josh Ratner, that he is in. There's the second season of Shameless, and I
Shameless
think,
as a man can be.
the first season of House of Lies, which
The Billy Joel reference.
and I think that's pretty much it. Oh, there's some Ninja Turtle stuff.
Oh yeah, all the Blu-rays are like individually released.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Red Hook Summer, which is the most recent Spike Lee joint that no one saw.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. Oh, and a Blu-ray of Flight of the Navigator. There you go.
Nice. Inside
Man.
Man's a good movie.
Something
Spike
to
Lee.
buy this week. Yeah, that looks like everything. No shark movies.
Yep, I think it's a couple weeks. Snow Sharks.
Yeah. Oh man, I have to rent that.
Cool.
Cool.
Unspool real news, James.
It's real news.
Well, we got a lot of trailers this week, and I don't want to talk about all of them, but there's a couple that I feel like need to be discussed. The big one was that for a long time now, people have been talking a lot of word about Pacific Rim, but we've gotten very little about it. And this week we got a Pacific Rim trailer. Did you guys get to check it out?
I did.
I heard some things about it.
Chris, you saw it, right?
Yes, I did.
You are a big fan of giant transforming robot thingies. What do you think about that trailer?
Well, word of mouth, like in the tokusatsu kind of fan community, is pretty huge because it kind of goes along the lines of what that entire genre is about, which is people in big giant robot suits fighting big monster things.
Oh yeah.
So they're all excited. You and I were talking earlier when we were in line for The Hobbit about it, and kind of I can just repeat the same things I said there. It was to get the attention of all the people that are going to go see a movie, just eat popcorn and be wowed for 15 minutes or whatever. It didn't tell you anything about a story, didn't tell you anything about anything other than here's some special effects, here's some aliens, here's some explosions, we have giant robots, yay.
Yeah.
Sold me.
Yeah.
I'm sold. I mean, I'm going, yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, the thing about it is that we've heard so much about the action sequences being really cool, or if you follow news coming out of Comic-Con, that's what we hear. But I feel like it's sort of holding back here. A lot of what we see in the trailer is, hey, you remember Godzilla? Well, here's a shot that's a lot like that. And you remember Cloverfield? Here's a shot that's a lot like that. I mean, I didn't feel like I saw anything really fresh in this trailer, other than maybe when he's punching the monster and the rocket launches on the back. But it's exciting in that it feels like I mean, and the Transformers movies feel this way too, where it feels like a little kid playing with his toys, smashing them together, and like this is what that would actually be. I'm still excited for it. It's just that this trailer did not wow me. As excited as we were after the Star Trek trailer, man, I did not have the same buzz.
I heard it's the Neon Genesis movie I've always wanted.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Either do I.
Yeah, you guys wouldn't.
One of the other trailers, we also got a trailer for Oblivion, but that just looks cool.
Tom Cruise.
But I think more interesting is we got a trailer for After Earth, which...
my favorite filmmaker is making it, by the way.
I was just going to say, what's weird about
Tim
this
Burton
trailer
made that one?
No, M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
That's what's weird, is that nowhere in the trailer does it say his name.
Yeah, because he's an embarrassment now.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's crazy. There was a time where, like, I remember on signs that his name is over that movie, and it was...
Devil is M. Night Shyamalan presents.
You're right.
Devil.
And that did poorly, too. I mean, it's almost like they're going to start not showing the blinding edge part before the trailer because somebody might know, like it's really bizarre. And I don't think that movie looks bad. It's intriguing. It's certainly not exciting the way that some of the other trailers we've gotten.
My problem with that
are,
all the time is it just seems Will Smith wants to make his kid popular.
Yeah,
that's my. Is that his kid?
Yeah, that's Jaden Smith.
It's a family movie, literally.
Well. Yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm waiting for his wife to pop in as something.
I really don't want to see Jada.
The last human woman left behind.
I don't want to see Jada Pinkett
And his
Smith
daughter does the soundtrack.
I whip my hair.
It's like a slower version of "Whip My Hair Back" with an orchestra behind it.
Well, yeah, it's like a dramatized, I whip my hair back and forth. No, that's like a lounge. Yeah, I just think it's fascinating to see how far that guy has fallen.
I mean, we'll see it, but I don't know about it.
Oh yeah,
it looks kind of like Avatar, but without the avatars.
It could be cool, and this is still a first trailer, so there's not a lot of plot in it.
They showed it to us right after Oblivion, so I felt like it was
totally overshadowed
in the same universe.
Yeah. And whereas Oblivion's got so much sort of hints at plot and cool story and the cool
and someone you could root for, Tom Cruise, and that one you're like, I have to. They'd really just show Jaden Smith walking around Earth.
Yeah. Monkeys. Anyway, it's been a long time since we had anybody die on the podcast. Well, not on the podcast, but we talk about people dying on a podcast. Rusty Mills died at 49 this week. Rusty Mills was he was a director for Warner Brothers. Most importantly, he was the director for Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. He had colon cancer for quite a while and died this week, which is unfortunate. But it's really just a chance for us to all talk about how talented that. Whoa, you asshole!
Wow.
I was just going to talk about how much those shows meant to me and how great it was, and you had to make a took it up the butt joke.
I said it quietly. You just made it really loud.
Yeah, no, because I need to spread your shame out so everyone can see it.
You didn't have to say it at all.
Is that me taking it up the butt?
Yes, it is.
Spreading my shame out so you can see it all?
There's still a 4th volume of Animaniacs that has to come out?
Yeah, it comes out really soon.
Yeah. I assume since it's been so long that there's only those, 3?
I know. I did love the Animaniacs. I used to have the soundtrack.
Yeah. And is Batman the Mystery of the Batwoman, is that episode from Volume 4?
I don't think so. I think it's its own movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Because he directed that too. As well as some Tiny Toons Adventures.
That was like the last really good era of cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Well, that and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I got 100% on my geography test for the United States capitals
because of Animaniacs.
Because of Animaniacs.
Because of Yakko's America.
Montpellier, which is up in Vermont. See, I remember that stuff.
I ripped them off my cassette. I can give them to you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You should give them to me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Though, all of that said, he was also the one who tore it all down with Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain, which was a god-awful show. Made me so sad. Ooh, come on. Go ahead. The very last thing is the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead are going to get re-released come spring, February-ish, in black and white on AMC. So you're going to be able, if you haven't been watching the show and you want to catch up, or if you just want to see it in black and white, which would be awesome, or at least I expect it will be, that you're going to get a chance. It starts mid-February, like the 18th or something like that. My one problem with this is, of course, that then they are going to re-release the DVDs with entirely black and white seasons on them to double dip the fans or triple dip the fans on the first season.
You want to know how to get those for free?
Torrent them on the internet.
Desaturate the color on your television.
Oh, yeah, this is also very true. Oh man, yeah.
In your face, AMC.
That's awesome.
A public service announcement from the real nerds.
Well, I've never gotten a
saving
chance
you
to,
money.
I've never gotten a chance to watch the first one in black and white. You own it, right? You've seen it.
It's really
cool.
good. Yeah.
But
Sucker.
yeah, without Frank Darabont on it, maybe the show, because he sort of filmed it knowing he was going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it doesn't make a difference. It's just a lack of color. It's not like 3D where you gotta film it for that. Anyway, that's news.
This week in the comic book corner, our guest has a comic book, so let's hit that comic book corner. I don't
Shit.
know. It's late.
What's up, nerds? It's the Comics Corner.
Chris, what do you got for us?
2:30 in the morning. Usually licensed comic properties are pretty crappy comic books,
Yeah.
just in general.
Oh, absolutely.
So being a toy collector and a nerd for many, many, many decades now, two and a half practically, and that's a lot. Actually, I'm going to bring out
That's
Transformers.
almost 25 years.
I know.
Shit.
No, there's a Transformers book out there right now. There's actually two ongoing. It's made by or put out by IDW Publishing.
They make good shit.
Yeah, they did very well. They do very well with like Star Trek, I believe, and they got
When they had that whole crossover thing where it was like Star Trek and Transformers.
Oh, they
and,
tried to catch on the
Infestation.
zombie train
Yeah.
with the Infestation, and that just got weird.
yeah.
That was with Mike Costa.
That's
writing
not the
things,
book
and
that
that
you
was
were
horrible.
recommending.
No.
Yeah.
So after the comics sucked for so long, and a lot of the Transformer fans who read the comics, bitched and complained and wondered why the hell these things were still coming out, they went ahead
Yeah.
and separated the book into two separate directions,
Yeah.
two separate titles with different casts in each one. The one I'm referring to is the subtitle's More Than Meets the Eye.
Mhm.
It's written by a guy named James Roberts, who's actually out in the UK. Kind of got his start as just a fanfic writer, wrote his own characters, his own stories, and eventually got picked up by IDW. He's writing a hell of a book, though.
Cool.
I think it's Comic Book Resources. Every week or so often they do their, the hot pile, the okay pile, and like the crap to avoid pile. And I think he's had his issues on there 4 or 5 times now as far as a hot title to pick up. The last issue that came out was just number 11.
So it's still early. It's something that
it's still early. You can still get the trades, and you catch up a little bit there. You can if you want to just go online and do Comixology.
Yeah.
If you're lame like me and don't feel like driving to a comic store to find out your comics.
Well,
out there.
but you wouldn't do that because we have a store. But who does the art?
It's actually a friend of mine. His name's Alex Milne. Pretty much just done Transformer stuff for the last 8 years of his life.
Cool.
You can find him DeviantArt and things like that. I think his name on DeviantArt's Marker Guru, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It's a really good book, though. It's not. Like I said, the licensed properties usually suck.
Oh yeah,
they usually.
We've talked about all of the horror ones plenty of times on here.
But it's just great writing. It's great characterization. There's humor. And James Roberts, like I said, he's become a favorite comic writer of mine just in the last 3 months.
Cool. What's he doing in it that's so compelling?
Just the way he's writing stories, the characterization of each character. It's different than what you might have been used to, I guess. He's one of those writers who he'll throw something in issue 2, just a one-liner from a character that ends up becoming a major plot point 6 issues later.
Yeah.
There's mysteries. The big story arc that just finished was they were telling a story about what happened on Cybertron way back. That's their home planet. Way back in the past when the war was going on, and there's a senator, and you don't know what's up with the senator because he becomes a different character because they lead up to it, and he becomes. Yeah. You find out who he turns into, and it's not anybody you expect at all. And then once you realize it, you can go back 6 years into something IDW wrote 6 years ago and actually find the link that he decided to go back and take a peek at that he had nothing to do with.
Is he if you're somebody who's not reading a lot of Transformers stuff or doesn't know all of Transformers canon, is it something you can just pick up?
Yes. Obviously, I mean, IDW had their own little storyline, and they retconned it, and then they had another storyline, and then they retconned it.
Cool.
That's what they do. But everything is pretty much self-contained. You really don't need to have the history,
Yeah.
and the history you do need to know, they go ahead and retell for you.
Very cool.
So
it seems like they've been doing that, because isn't IDW doing the Turtles books as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like they've been doing that a lot lately, where they've been, trying to get people back into some of those older franchises and do it in a way where the canon doesn't matter as much. So that's cool. And I bet because they have a really wide expanse and you would have it in your hands rather than on your phone, you could get it at Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics.
Absolutely, you can get it at Colorado Coins, Cards, and Comics.
Yeah. Though it's probably, normal priced there, isn't it? I mean, you can't get it any cheaper, can you?
You can. The back issues will be half off.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Plus, if you have like a hold slot,
then all the new issues are 20% off.
There you go. Very cool. Well, thanks, Chris.
Cool, yeah.
Hey,
way different one than we usually do.
Exactly, I know.
So thanks. So this week, we saw The Hobbit at 48 frames per second.
In 3D.
In 3D.
The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey.
An Unexpected Journey, that's right, because we have 2 more of these.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever listened to our podcast, Chris, but now we go around and say, Chris, should people go see The Hobbit?
Yes.
All right.
Brad, should people go see The Hobbit?
I was really bored with the first half and then really engaged in the second half. I think people should just go get a sampling of the 60 frames per second frame rate.
48.
48?
Yeah, it's 48.
That was 60.
No, Douglas Trumbold is doing 60.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least just experience it once,
Yeah.
Just for that alone, just to definitely you'll experience a difference.
Oh yeah.
And I'll explain why.
Yeah, I definitely think like if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you definitely ought to check this out. While it feels more like a first act of a trilogy than the Fellowship of the Ring did, and I think it suffers a little bit from that. I still think it is good, and you're going to want to see it now because you're probably going to want to see the sequels for sure. The 3D, I will say this: I have never enjoyed 3D and found it as impressive as I did in the high frame rate, and I believe that is entirely because of the high frame rate. I don't think the high frame rate is entirely where it needs to be, but I do think if you're interested in it, for sure, check it out. Especially if you're going to see the movie more than once, make one of those times a high frame rate and just see how you enjoy it and how that changes the experience for you, because I think it's pretty interesting at the very least.
Yeah, the movie's good. You should see it. I mean, telling someone to see it, you should see The Hobbit.
Yeah. Everybody's going to go see this movie, and I don't think you're going to get disappointed by it.
We'll roll the trailer, and then we'll talk about The Hobbit.
And when we do, we'll
An Unexpected Journey.
We'll start going into trailers a little bit, or spoilers a little bit, so be warned.
Far to the east, over ranges and rivers, lies a single solitary peak. The dwarves are determined to reclaim their homeland.
I like visitors as much as the next hobbit. But I do like to know them before they come visiting.
Mr. Baggins? At your service.
I'm surrounded by dwarves. What are they doing here?
Oh, they're quite a merry gathering. So, this is the Hobbit. You asked me to find the 14th member of this company, and I have chosen Mr. Baggins.
Me? No.
Hobbits can pass unseen by most if they choose, which gives us a distinct advantage.
We will seize this chance to take back Erebor!
Here, Mr. Bilbo! Where are you off to? I'm going on an adventure!
Mithrandir, why the halfling?
Why Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. And it gives me courage.
So this is your purpose, to enter the mountain?
What of it?
There are some who would not deem it wise.
A dark power has found a way back into the world.
Why don't we have a game of riddles?
And if it loses, what then? Well, if it loses, precious, then we eat it. If Baggins loses, we eat it whole.
Fair enough.
I will take each and every one of these dwarves over the mightiest army. Loyalty, honor, a willing heart. I can ask no more than that. Home is now behind you. The world is ahead.
Well, that could have been worse.
The high frame rate is really distracting. I don't think I can see too many movies like it because one, there's parts in the movie where it looked like they were on a set and it looked really bad. The opening attack of smog on the dwarves. When they were running through the little town square they had, it looked really fake.
Yeah, it kind of looks like video. It kind of looks like a History Channel reenactment.
Or a soap opera or something.
I thought I was watching a 3-hour video game cutscene.
Oh, yeah. No. The high frame rate definitely feels like a video game. Because video games are running on a good day at 60 frames per second. And so that's why.
And it made all the to me, it made all the CGI elements look more realistic for some reason, but also made all the human film characters, either they were moving too fast, like someone was fast forwarding through their actions, or they just felt out of place.
I sort of had the opposite reaction where I early on, before I sort of got used to it, like when we first see Bilbo and he's rooting around in that trunk, I was like, whoa, why is he moving so fast? But after that sort of wore off on me. I had the opposite reaction, though, where sometimes the CG, when the CG was moving, that felt a little bit more out of place. It almost made the CG pop a little for me, where I was like, okay, well, that's fake. Like the bad hand in Twilight from last week, that kind of thing, where it feels like it's plastered on rather than really being a part of the environment. And it may be I see it in 2D and I go, oh, actually that shot is just a bad CG shot. It might be that. It's hard to separate those things out.
I don't know. I think at the high frame rate, the CGI didn't have weight to it. It seemed... there's some parts that are, spectacular looking in it. The part that really stood out to me that looked kind of bad was when they're riding on the hawks. There's a part where the hawks are going over this ridge, and you can kind of see like the black outlines and stuff. And I think that's part of the high frame rate where it's going to render things better. You're going to see it more clearly, I guess.
Yeah.
The edges. But as for the movie itself, I think it took a while for it to get going.
Yeah.
There's still some fun little parts in it, but it seems like it was kind of dragging its feet to get going.
Yeah. And before we move on too much to the movie, I do want to talk about the.
Oh, is this your fucking show now, James?
No. I want to finish the conversation about the 3D and the HFR before we, because then we can just put it to bed. I think for one, we have to remember that this is the first movie that's done it, and so I think that some of this stuff down the road they might work it out. No. I'm just saying. I think it's an interesting thing, and we can't right away say like, oh, this is shit, and I never want to see this again, because I don't feel that way. I think some of it is just that they got to work some of this stuff out. But also,
how do you work out them moving that way?
I think that you find little tricks to realize like, okay, well, the reason is because when we render it this way, that makes it pop in the high frame rate, and if we do it a little bit differently,
yeah. But I'm talking about people who walk. Like there's parts when Bilbo at the beginning was walking, that was so unnatural that's what I'm talking about. The high frame rate. There's parts where it looked spectacular, and I'd go like 10 minutes without noticing it. Then all of a sudden there'd be a shot, and you're like, whoa, then you're like pulled out immediately again. Yeah. So I think that's the hard thing with me with this high frame rate. But yeah, I'm not going to say I'm not going to see another one in high frame rate. Who knows?
It's definitely not perfected yet. But I still, there were shots, and this has never happened to me before, and people who listen know that I am not a huge fan of 3D, but later in the movie there were arrows getting shot, sort of, not directly at us, but, into the 3D. And my eye involuntarily twitched as if to protect it from getting hit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like that I was that convinced that I was seeing something depth, and it looks like...
Oh, no, I agree.
Way better.
I felt 3D. Like I was in that world.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's probably the best 3D I've ever seen.
Oh, it's definitely the best. There's parts when Gollum's crawling around, and, the jagged rocks and stuff, and then when he... actually, my favorite... This is silly, but my favorite 3D shot is when Gollum's talking, and then he turns into Smeagol, and he looks right at the camera, and you feel like he's talking to you. And
Yes.
I mean, there's parts. 3D was impressive, and I'm not a fan of 3D.
And I think that's why I'm apologizing for the high frame rate stuff, because I was so impressed by the 3D that I want them to figure this out. Because I was like, okay, you unlike Avatar, this time they actually showed me something where I was like, okay, this could be really cool. But anyway, unless anybody else has something to say about the frame rate.
As far as the frame rate goes, I don't think there's too much you can fix with it, only because we were talking earlier about it too, is just it looked like at times there was guys, like you were watching, maybe it was just the 3D with it, but it looked like you were sitting in a theater and they were acting on a stage right up on top of you.
Yeah.
And they move fast because that's how people move naturally when you're looking at them. I mean, if you start waving your arms around like this, you're going to be going that fast. That's exactly what Bilbo was doing in that scene.
And it could just be that audience have to sort of get retrained to watch these movies, and that motion just is going to be a little bit different. But I don't want it to be that.
Maybe we've just spent the last 70 years watching movies where that never happened, and we've just been trained that movies move a little bit slower than real life.
But but you can say, I mean, actually, when the Warner Brothers thing happened, I was like, whoa, this is super clear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's parts where, I do like the outside stuff. I guess I should preface, like, when you tell that's on a stage, it's not as good. But when it was outside, when they're riding horses and stuff, I thought it looked amazing.
Absolutely.
And that's the part where it didn't bother me as much. But I think the parts when they're on sets was where it was.
Let me ask you, Ryan.
Sure.
The one part that I noticed that really bothered me was when Gandalf leaves Bilbo in the very beginning when he bars the door, and Bilbo's watching out the window.
Yeah.
That just stood out to me as what I would call a bad. It was weird. You could tell that it was, Bilbo on a set looking out a window.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah. But there's, like I said, there's parts when they're outside, when they're riding the horses and stuff. I think it looked spectacular. Like, the sun looked real, and so I liked that part of it.
You felt like you were on an opposing mountaintop watching them run across a mountaintop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That part was cool. But, some parts, it's like as a play. You could see the sets. And
maybe it's almost too clear.
Yeah. But that sounds kind of silly. It looks too good.
I know. No, exactly.
I'm trying to remember if I don't think I think part of the high frame rate is that there's no motion blur on anything. So when you were waving your hand earlier, I see intertwined frames of my hand moving.
Yeah.
Naturally, but I can't think of seeing anything like that in the.
Again, you should see it. It's an experience, and it doesn't make the movie worse. It just.
And if you're going to see it in 3D, I think that's the way to see it. For sure.
But the movie is good. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's not a bad movie.
No.
But there is parts. It drags its feet. I think at the beginning. I think Brad, you alluded to it. It just.
I left the theater at one point to go get
I
snacks.
know.
Did
you really?
Yeah, dick.
You didn't notice them getting up and leaving?
Yeah.
No.
I felt like I was
people getting up
annoying
constantly.
everybody.
I thought that was some lady. I remember.
There was a lady that stood up and stomped out. Yes.
Yeah, but people are getting up constantly through that movie. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
And
here?
especially that first half or so, I think people were just sort of restless because there's a lot of just sort of setting stuff up. And
if you're not familiar, not even setting stuff up, maybe setting up the story, but it introduces to you 14 characters like that.
I think that's the. You're right.
If you're not familiar with the book or anything about it, it's 14 characters that you're really gonna get to know 3, but you're only gonna remember the name of one.
Yeah, I can't remember
because they don't mention the names of the others, and so it's Gandalf, Frodo, Thorin, whatever, and you might remember
Coin and
Ellie, Deli,
Groin.
and Grumpy and Sneezy.
No, goddamn. But I think that they purposely Boffer gets quite a bit of screen. He's the guy with the hat. He gets more character than anybody else. Well, yeah. But I think that they are purposely trying to pick out a couple of the dwarfs and say okay, these ones are going to be the ones that people actually remember and are really characters.
Dwarven Legolas.
Yes, yeah.
Because that's how I'm going to refer to them.
I don't remember if that
was
one's Feely or Keely, but
Aragorn, Dwarven.
Right, but that's what I mean. You're not gonna, by the end of these movies, you're probably not going to know all of those guys really well, but there's clearly a couple of them that they want to just sort of spotlight to make them into characters, because otherwise it's 3 people in a party and then some dwarves in the background.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think because it's the first one, you had to get to know everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's why maybe it took a little longer for it to get going.
Yeah.
Because, when it gets going, the movie's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the Golem scene alone makes it worth seeing.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you have to get through that opening party scene if you can keep your attention span through that, because
that's why I left. I was like, they're going to spend the next 10 minutes trying to convince Bilbo to go on the quest. So I know what's going on.
It's a 20-minute adventure through Bilbo's house. If you can sit through that and keep your attention, then you'll be pleasantly.
But there's also great nods to the first movie. Well, the Fellowship, where Gandalf's walking through and he's hitting the chandelier and stuff like he did in the first one, and there's cool little winks like that.
And I think those nods are good. Things like we get a little bit of prequelness in that first scene when Bilbo is writing the book, when Ian Holm is writing the book, and we get things like Frodo going out to nail that sign on the door that we all know because it's in the first movie. But the part of the problem I think I have with this series so far is that it does have a little bit of that prequel trilogy, episode 1, 2, and 3 thing where some of the stuff that I don't need to know anything about, like where Glamdring comes from or where Sting comes from, that's the sort of stuff is coming up. And now here's the thing. That stuff is all in The Hobbit. All that stuff about where they get their swords and things like that, it's all in The Hobbit. But it's all the kind of stuff that in The Lord of the Rings they cut out. So like I know the name of Aragorn's horse because it's in the extended cut of The Lord of the Rings, but in the theatrical cut they cut that out because guess what? I don't need to know the name of Aragorn's horse. And some of that's, or some of the scenes like between Gandalf and Galadriel where they're setting this stuff up, and I don't know that it feels more like a first arc than Fellowship did because there's a lot of stuff here where I feel like they're giving us information like about Radagast and the Necromancer and stuff where I'm like, okay, this is clearly not going to come up until 2 or 3 movies or one or two movies from now.
Well, 2 though. I mean, you're also the Fellowship of the Rings is a book.
Right.
The Hobbit is one book that they have to make into 3 parts.
Right, exactly.
So I think that's what's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's parts that are fun. I didn't really care for the cute little porcupine that he nursed back to health.
I know, that goes on forever.
Yeah,
what was his name? Sebastian?
Yeah, but really the porcupine's like...
it's not a porcupine, it's a hedgehog.
That's what personified porcupines do. That's how they act.
Really?
They're adorable, and
they do this?
They get extended death scenes, too.
But he sucked the death out of it.
He did.
Out of his little hedgehog.
I was glad he didn't actually die.
Well, and see, like, there's a thing where the spiders come up, and if you don't remember The Hobbit, the book, those spiders come back, and there's a big, it's a big action scene.
A giant one comes back in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah. Like, spiders will come back in this series, but that scene just sort of feels weird, and we lose momentum there. And it may be a thing that when the whole trilogy is out, we can look at it and go like, oh, man, how great is this? But it's hard to even judge this movie on its own because of that. It's weird.
The more I've been thinking about the movie and just the pacing and the way it goes, I almost want to put like Fellowship of the Ring on and play them side by side, because I almost think, looking back, I think they're almost identical in pacing and location and scenery.
Oh yeah,
I mean
halfway
the party scene in the beginning of Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship, and then everything in the beginning with Bilbo. Then the next thing you know, they're all on the roads.
And they're halfway through, they get to
Rivendell. Rivendell, and then
then
the next thing you know, they're underground, and then they're running out from the underground.
But I think the difference is that with Fellowship, there's sort of this ticking clock where, and part of it is because there's more information, there's stuff they're cutting out, and so they're shortening everything, whereas this movie feels like they're lengthening everything. But also because they're trying to save the world in that one, whereas this one, like, if they don't get to Smaug in time, there is no timetable on that really. So they're just sort of moseying where
they kind of introduced the idea of a timetable in the last,
the
final arc of that movie, anyways.
But The Hobbit just sort of naturally feels more like an adventure where, like, well, this is the chapter where they run into some trolls and they have to fight the trolls and get away, and then this is the chapter where they get chased by, some wargs and stuff like that. It feels more like a little isolated events than The Hobbit, than Fellowship of the Ring, which gets some momentum early and then is just constant action and running. And once we finish a fight sequence with the Ringwraiths at Weathertop, Frodo is dying, and they get him on a horse and they run him to Rivendell. Like there is no stopping and waiting in that movie. Whereas in The Hobbit, they're taking their time, and I think that just makes it feel a bit more languid than we are used to from Lord of the Rings movies. It's not bad.
No.
It's just very different.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
Again, I don't think you can not see the movie.
Yeah, I think you should go see it. Anything else to add to The Hobbit, guys? I think we've...
I'd say if you're just going to watch it conventionally, like, go see it, whatever. But, like, if you really do want to go see it, I think you should try the high frame rate.
Yeah.
Really?
Or 3D.
Yeah.
I mean, just try it,
It's different than your typical... I mean, because I would say it's probably the first that I can think of that would be worth seeing medieval 3D versus your summer sci-fi.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's high frame rate. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but it's an event. I mean, never happened before.
Oh, yeah.
So you should do yourself a favor and see it in high frame rate.
As we, if you listen to our Paul Salmon interview, he'll talk about the fact that Douglas Trumbold has been working for a long, long time to try and get us to see a movie like this, and it is a big deal that it's out there.
Because Hollywood wants you to see it.
Well, yeah.
Too, and because they want to make movies like this. So
yeah.
And, like we said, the 3D is really convincing. They actually did stuff that I've always said that, the Disney parks always did, is they put something, whether in this movie it's a butterfly or a bird, that flies to you on the screen and flies around.
Yeah.
Instead of having just ash fall and...
Or tooth fly at you.
Exactly.
Here's what I'll say. If Jim Cameron doesn't make Avatar 2 and 3 in high frame rate, he's a fucking idiot.
Whoa, Jim Cameron. Friends?
Oh, yeah. We're best friends. We're real close.
Nickname basis.
Yeah.
His
nickname's going to change to fucking idiot if he doesn't make the next
opposed to
Avatar
fucking
movies.
dickhead, which everybody else calls him.
Because it really, you know how I feel about 3D.
Well, I mean, he
this
has
really
to.
impressed me.
He has to, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's an idiot. You're right. He's an idiot if he doesn't.
Probably already helped.
I'm sure he
Peter
already
Jackson
is
do it.
planning.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's already planning to do it, so it's not really a big deal. We're just sitting here like, I really want to call that guy an idiot.
Don't worry. Don't worry. He's filming 2 sequels to Avatar, and he's only making Avatar movies, guys. Okay.
Yeah, he's done with that Terminator shit.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. I'm not worried.
So, thanks for listening to us. Chris, you want to give a shout-out one more time about your website where people can find you?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out just kind of what the idea of tokusatsu is and so forth, just go to www.tokunation.com. Just check it out.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, guys.
Always,
thanks for having me.
Always welcome. You can email us, realnerds@gmail.com. You can tweet us, real_nerds. You can call us 720-6nerds5. You can like us on Facebook. Visit our website, realnerdspodcast.com. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.